Uh, Hello, Shweta, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, good evening to all the members and participants who have joined this webcast. And um, more participants would be joining during the session as the session progresses. However, as we always do, we would like to start on time. So it's already 5:07. So we will start and people can keep on joining. Thank you again for the overwhelming response to this workshop. And we would try to cover topics extensively in this workshop. Friends, as you know that GST e-invoicing would be applicable on those taxpayers whose turnover is more than 100 crores from 1st of January 2021. So we would be covering in detail the GST e-invoice. Also, you know, there are a spree of notifications which have been issued from 79 to 88 on quarterly return and monthly payers. So one, we would cover those notifications and the facts and the processes of the system in detail. Also, we would cover what those notifications have in store or this new quarterly return monthly payment QRMP tax system, what effect it will have on the larger taxpayers. That is, if you are the recipient of a QRMP, then what would be the impact on you as a recipient of goods or services from a taxpayer who is under QRMP scheme? Friends, you know that GST department is also across the country conducting GST audits, inspections, access to business premises, and sometimes summons also. Well, across the country, you all know that GST already has seen a spree of litigations. Lot of litigations have been decided by high courts. So we'll discuss on the important judgments of the high courts under the GST regime recently, and with specific reference to this the status of Mohit Minerals case, which has been appealed to by the department in the Honorable Supreme Court. And last but not the least, we'll cover a little bit on risky exporters, how to handle this issue where department is tagging certain exporters as risky exporters. So a host of topics which we thought would be very, very relevant in the next 1 month or so, and which are very, very recent. So we would try to cover all of these topics one by one, slowly and steadily. So friends, first of all, we'll go in this chronology only. GST e-invoices. You can also see the PPT as we go ahead. I would not be referring to the PPT slide by slide because it's a vast PPT, you know. So I keep on deliberating. So somewhere we have this PPT has become very extensive. But I would take you through the intricacies of each of the aspects. So first of all, when this e-invoices was first implemented on 1st October 2020 on those taxpayers who have turnover of more than 500 crore, the pertinent question was why e-invoices, right? And we are very, very clear. GST e-invoices is here primarily to counter the menace of fake invoices. So e-invoices, yes, it would lead to ease of doing business going forward. However, presently e-invoicing under GST is primarily for the GST department, whereby the commissioners and commissionerates would be having the GST liability figure live of each taxpayer in the commissionerate who is going with e-invoicing. So GST, with GST e-invoicing, the moment you as a supplier would generate the e-invoices, at that very moment the commissionerate would know what your GST liability is, right? And the moment your supplier generates an e-invoice, at that very moment the commissioner would know that it has reflected in your 2A. So at that very moment, on a daily basis, the commissionerate would know your tax liability as far as even the cash outflow is concerned. It would know, say, 80 to 90% of your ITC and 100% of your output tax liability, right? So we don't know. We feel that going forward, the moment your tax liability goes beyond a point, then possibly there would be a call from the GST department also going forward, asking you to pay or deposit some amount of tax, right? You all know, friends, that with this QRMP scheme or quarterly return monthly payment scheme for small assessees, now it is accepted by the GST department also that the cash balance in the ledger, that is cash balance in the cash ledger, would tantamount to payment of GST. I am repeating, cash balance in the cash ledger would tantamount to deposit of GST with the government or payment of GST. I would tell you why going forward. So the point here is, with e-invoices, we feel that the commissionerate would know the taxpayer's GST liability and the cash payment requirement on a live basis, and going forward possibly you have to deposit tax liability just like in the erstwhile central excise regime. The manufacturers were asked by the field formations to deposit in the PLA account. So with the e-invoices, now the assessees or taxpayers have to deal with three portals under GST. First is the GST portal on which you file the returns and through which you get the GSTR 2A. Then is the NIC portal or the e-way bill portal on which you generate e-way bills. And now that there would be a third portal which would be called invoice registration portal or registrar of e-invoices, or in short IRP, right? So on this IRP you would be generating your e-invoices. Friends, there is a lot of difference between the first two portals and this portal. The biggest difference is that this IRP would be a pass-through portal. Okay, so in IRP, no data would be stored. Okay, it would just be a pass-through portal where your invoice data would be stored for not more than 24 hours. Okay, so that is why the name of this seminar we have kept e-invoices with the help of a GSP, because as you saw with e-way bill portal, where e-way bill generated for the last not more than 6 months were available on the e-way bill portal. In the same way, in the IRP portal, once you generate the e-invoices, the data also vanishes. It does not vanish for the department, mind that. So the commissionerate would keep on having the data in their server. However, you as a taxpayer, the data would not be available for you. Okay. Some participants are saying that audio or buffering problem. Friends, I am using a high speed broadband. So at our end, I don't think there is a problem. Kindly check at your end. So going forward, this is where a GSP or GST Suvidha provider comes to the fore, right? In a GSP, the data would be stored for minimum 5 years, right? In some GSPs even more. And therefore, in the GSP, you would be able to access the data going forward till 5 to 6 years, which would not be possible in a e-way bill or an IRP portal, right? E-way bill and IRP portal, mind that a major difference with GST portal is they store the data for a very short period of time. IRP portal only 24 hours. So with this understanding, now this diagram is the most important diagram as far as e-invoicing is concerned. You would have for sure seen this diagram before, and it looks very complicated, but actually it is very simple. And once we understand this diagram, we would be understanding e-invoices, and we would be very clear about e-invoicing under GST. So friends, there are 4 blocks in this diagram, right? One is the seller, this part, the leftmost part. Then is the e-invoice registrar or IRP. Then is the GST system, and last is the buyer. Okay. So now, seller, at your end, right? If you are using a GSP, there would be no change, right? Now, what do you do? Presently, you are submitting invoice data into GSTR1, right? Almost the same data with a few additions you would be submitting to the IRP, right? On a live basis. So what would be that data? Presently, you are submitting supplier name, that is your name, your GST number, your email address, the recipient's name, GST IN, the recipient's address, the item particulars, HSN codes, taxable value, tax amount, total invoice value. So by and large, there are around 50 items which you are presently also mapping in your ERP, submitting around 20 odd items to the GSTR1. That same would continue, right? There is no change. Now, this invoice data, right, with a few additions, of course, you would be submitting on a live basis to the IRP, invoice registration portal. There are 10 portals which have been notified by the CBIC, and which would be the invoice registration portals. Now, once you submit this data to the IRP, the format of submission can be JSON format, can be a CSV format. So IRP would receive only JSON format, right? However, if you use a GSP, you can submit in Excel, you can submit in JSON, you can submit in CSV, whatever, and the GSP would automatically convert it, right? So now when you submit this data to the IRP would do three things, right? First, it would generate an IRN, invoice reference number. It would be a 64-digit number, which would be a hashed function of your various data, right? Like supplier GSTIN would be there, the seller's GSTIN. So 38 digits would be supplier and this GSTIN. There would be other also things which we would be submitting. So IRN would be a hashed function of 64 digit from the invoice data. The IRP would generate the IRN. It would generate a QR code. Presently, you see a QR code on your e-way bill. That same function, in a hashed function, the IRP would generate a QR code, right? And it would digitally sign the JSON file which you submit to the IRP. So three things IRP would do. It would generate a QR code, it would generate an IRN, and it would digitally sign the JSON file. By digital signing, we mean not somebody is there to sign it, but it would be, this JSON file would be digitally encrypted. With these three functionalities, the IRP would push back the JSON file to the seller, that is you, who are generating the e-invoice, right? And the seller has to reverse integrate this JSON file in its ERP. You can use SAP, you can use Tally, you can use Microsoft Navigation, you can use any Oracle based software, you can use One World system, you can use whatever ERP. So it would throw back this JSON file with IRN, QR code and digital signature, encrypted signature, and your ERP, on your ERP you would see a e-invoice with an IRN, with a QR code and with a embedded digital signature, right? Friends, all of this would be done in a matter of 12 to 20 seconds, right? It would just be a matter of 12 to 20 seconds in which all of these functionalities would be done, right? Now you see this bar, blue bar in between. This blue bar is the GSP. So we have also a GSP called Go for GSP or Robo GSP, right, which we provide. So if you take the use of Go for GSP or Robo GSP or any GSP, what this GSP does is it acts as an interface between your ERP and your IRP, right? So if you make the invoice in your SAP or your Tally or whatever ERP, you give us the Excel file or JSON file or CSV file. You don't have to bother about anything. And our GSP, it would provide back the digitally encrypted and QR code encrypted and IRN numbered JSON file back in PDF format also if you require, and you have the e-invoice in front of you. Friends, this is only 5% of the e-invoicing, mind that. Generating e-invoice is only 5% of the job. As I told you, the biggest jobs of the GSP is that it would give you data analytics reports, right? Now, as you are interacting with three portals, the GST portal, e-way bill portal, and the IRP portal, and there is no report which the government gives to you, the GSP Suvidha providers or our GSP Velocis or Go Robo GSP, what it would do is that it would give you data analytics reports. Like I will tell you, today you see there are departmental audits across the country where the department is asking you to submit a reconciliation between the GSTR 1 versus e-way bill plus GSTR 2A also, right? We would come to how to tackle all this. So what our GSP does is that it gives you a report which is automatically generated, which gives you a reconciliation between GSTR1, e-way bill and e-invoice, right? It gives you a reconciliation between 2A versus your purchase register. It gives you a reconciliation between way bills generated. It gives you so many other data analytics reports, right? Which is helpful during assessments or departmental scrutiny, right? And it also provides you this data, your data, it will store till at least 5 years, right? So no problem, even if you don't have the data in the e-way bill portal or the IRP portal, this our GSP, Velocis Go for GSP or Robo GSP, it would give you the data for 5 years time, and it would store the data in a completely secure environment, right? On the cloud, no need of storing the data also, and having a data storage space also on premise. Now friends, along with this, now I have told you one part of the e-way bill, e-invoice. Now it does few more things. IRP pushes this data of the e-invoice to the GST portal also, and your GSTR1 is automatically updated, right? Once you generate the e-invoice, your GSTR1 automatically gets updated. Also, it pushes this data to the buyer's GSTR2A. So the moment you generate your e-invoice, your GSTR1 gets updated and the buyer's GSTR2A and correspondingly 2B now also gets updated, right? So as I told you, the moment you generate an e-invoice or your supplier generates an e-invoice, your respective commissionerates, the department automatically knows that what is your GST liability. And that is why where these GSPs, if you take the help of a GSP, the GSP also on a live basis, it shows you what is your liability, what is your ITC to as per 2A, and it gives your management a live report as to what is the tax liability at this point of time. Because friends, as I told you, the GST department and the commissionerates now have a fully robust system, and therefore it is very important for the taxpayers also to have a robust software with which they can be ready for scrutiny and answering the replies during the GST department's audit. So this is a diagrammatic representation, right, on how this e-invoice would be generated, right? So this computer system in the middle, this is your GSP, Go for GST, Velocis GSP or Robo GSP, by which if you go through this GSP, then you can automatically generate these e-invoices and all your reports and the data storage will be done seamlessly and on a live basis. So friends, already in October 2020, around 5 crore e-invoices have been generated, right, by 27,400 odd taxpayers. This is the live data I am telling you, right? This is the most recent data we have got. So many people ask me that, sir, from 1st January ये e-invoice for 100 crore plus ये तो extend होगा. Friends, नहीं होगा. Let me be very categorically, because already 5 crore invoices have been generated in October. In November and December, more than 20 crore invoices would be generated. The IRPs are working absolutely you see, seamlessly. So no problem with that. Already you're notified for your notified taxpayers. Like if you are a taxpayer who is more than 100 crores, so your testing environment is already live. We have already tested the through our GSP, Go for GST, GSP and Robo GSP. We have already tested more than 20 taxpayers and they are ready to go live with e-invoices. The trial environment is also updated on the IRP. So you can do a trial of e-way bill and e-invoice. Mind that the moment you generate your e-invoice, simultaneously part A of the e-way bill, if you want to generate part A of the e-way bill also, you need not do anything. You just generate your invoice, fill in the part A details in the e-invoice environment, and your part A would be ready simultaneously. You have to do nothing, but that is only if you want. If you don't want to generate part A, then you have an option not to fill up that particular toolbox, right? As I said that for all the taxpayers who are more than 100 crore plus turnover, they are already enabled on the IRP e-invoice testing portal. And you can generate the IRNs and e-way bills also, but those will not be recognized for the purpose of your legal GST law. They will just be tested, test IRNs or e-way bills. Mind that if there are many cases, last time when we implemented for 500 crore plus taxpayers, we found that many taxpayers who have more than 500 crores turnover also, but because on the GSTR 3B they have reported a lower value of turnover, then they were not uh, registered in the testing environment. So what you need to do, there is a particular toolbox whereby you can just go, and if you are not live, you are not being able to generate your IRNs in the test environment or e-way bills in the test environment, you can just go there and within 24 hours your GSTIN will also be active for generation of e-invoices. On the contrary, if you feel that you are not 100 crore plus taxpayer, but if you see yourself also active over there, your GSTIN active in the IRP testing environment, then nothing to do, nothing to worry. E-invoice would still continue to be not applicable to you from 1st of January. Okay, so white notification 88/2020, the e-invoice would be mandatory for more than 100 crore plus turnover SSEs, and the e-invoices would be generated in form GST INV1 invoice schema. Friends, a very important thing which many taxpayers have missed and many miss is Rule 48.6 is very important. Rule 48.6 has been notified by notification 68/2019. Now this Rule 48.6 renders ineffective Rule 48.1, 2 and 3. So the crux of the matter is that you need not generate 3 copies of the invoice as required by Rule 48.1 if you are generating e-invoices, right? Your PDF copy of the e-invoices is a sufficient and valid invoice. Okay. So white notification 69/2019, these are the 10 e-invoice IRP portals which have been notified for e-invoicing, right? Friends, many are IT people in this workshop and many are tax people in this workshop, right, who are handling taxation in their respective companies or for their clients. Well, if you need to understand e-invoicing a little in detail, In fact, I would say if you need to want to understand e-invoices, you must go through notification 60/2020. This is the very important notification, especially the taxation professionals. They ignore this notification, right? उनको लगता है अरे ये क्या टेबल दे दिया इतना, ये आईटी लैंग्वेज है. फ्रेंड्स, ये आईटी लैंग्वेज नहीं है. Please do go through this 60/2020 notification. It gives an explanation of the schema of e-invoices. So I would just explain to you the schema of e-invoices, right? A little, and thereafter you can go through this notification. As I said, I would not go through the point by point in this PPT due to the paucity of time. So friends, most important is to understand cardinality, right, in this schema. So there are cardinal functions like you see in this 0.1, 1.1, 1.n, 0.n. It is very important to understand. See, if you start with 0, if any table in the schema starts with a 0, which means that the table is optional. I am repeating. If it starts with 0, it means the table is optional. If it ends with 1, it means that it ends with 1. Here, you can see the cursor. If it ends with 1, it means that it can be repeated. If it ends with n, it means that it can be repeated n number of times. Sorry, if it ends with 1, it means it cannot be repeated. If it ends with n, it means it can be repeated n number of times. So 0.1 means the particular table in the schema is optional and cannot be repeated. Once entered, entered. 1.1 means the particular table is mandatory and cannot be repeated. 1.n means the particular table is mandatory but can be repeated n number of times. 0.n means a particular table is optional and can be repeated n number of times, right? I will take you through one such table, right? So let us go to table number 1.2 in this schema. It says supply type code and the cardinality is 1.1. What is supply type code? B2B, B2C, SEZ, WP, SEZ, WOP, etc., etc., right? So 1.1 means it is a mandatory table and cannot be repeated again. So what? Now this is a new feature, right? And user training is very important because you know garbage in, garbage out. And user who is making the e-invoices, he needs to know that in addition to all other details which he used to enter before e-invoicing, now he needs to enter this supply type code also, right? So 1.1 means the user has to enter whether it is B2B, B2C, SEZ without payment, SEZ with payment, it is export with payment or export without payment or deemed export, right? So what is needed is to understand your IT, those who are IT professionals in this workshop, please go through this schema, and what is important is to make a do's and don'ts. We as a Velocys and Tax Connect, we are giving this do's and don'ts checklist to our clients, and we are taking a training for all the users who are making the e-invoices, right? And who are the main stakeholders, I would say. So user training is very, very important. This whole schema has to be drilled down to your IT people, your people who are generating the invoices, to your taxation department, right? Who should be knowing what are the do's and don'ts. Why I am stressing on this do's and don'ts and training is because you see, if you enter, anybody who is making the e-invoices in your company, if he enters a wrong data or wrong information more than 5 to 10 times, right? The number of times is not notified, but if he enters the wrong invoice data more than a couple of times, then your GSTIN may be blocked temporarily. Okay. So to when in our GSP, in our Go for GST, our GSP which we are providing, or Robo GSP, if you are using that, then automatically it will throw back an error. Say for example, you don't give a GSTIN, right? And now common errors are also notified. So for example, you give a GSTIN and type you select URP, that is unregistered purchaser, or which means that it is a wrong entry. So when you go through our GSP, we will give you automatically from the GSP that, gentlemen, see, this is a mistake and the IRP will reject this, and therefore please amend this. Again, IRP will do a deduplication check, right? What is deduplication check? Whether the same invoice number by the same taxpayer with the same document type in the same period has been generated again, right? If it has been, it will throw an error called duplicate IRN. What you need to do, you need to submit another IRN. Do not submit it again and again, right? This I am not telling from my mind. This we have faced in our GSP which we are providing, and also it is being provided by the GST department. So there are various such errors. If you go on doing these errors again and again, then your GSTIN is liable to be blocked by the IRP, right? If you use our GSP or any GSP, then it would catch automatically. So what are the documents today which are liable for e-invoicing? B2B invoices, export invoices, debit notes and credit notes. Four documents. B2B export invoices, including deemed exports invoices, credit note and debit note. Not commercial credit notes. Please note, this credit note and debit note are only GST debit notes and credit notes. So what is not liable for e-invoicing? Self-invoices, right? For reverse charge, not liable for e-invoicing. In fact, there is an error code also for that. If supplier and purchaser GSTIN is the same, then IRP will throw back an error. So self-invoice is not liable to e-invoicing. Bill of supply, not liable to e-invoicing. Delivery challan, not liable to e-invoicing. Receipt vouchers, payment vouchers, not liable to e-invoicing. Please do not throw it into the IRP. It will throw back an error, right? Friends, a very important thing is that e-invoicing is only applicable for B2B invoices. It is not applicable for B2C invoices. So in supplier type, if you choose recipient type, you choose URP, unregistered purchaser. It means you are generating a B2C invoice, which is not liable for e-invoicing. So, however, from 1st of December, please note very carefully, from 1st of December for B2C invoices also, a dynamic QR code is required. You are all aware of section 269 SU in Income Tax Act. This dynamic QR code would be supplied to you by your bank, and your B2C invoices should have this dynamic QR code. It will not have the QR code generated from IRP, but you need to have dynamic QR code generated by you yourself. It will be supplied to you by the bank, by which you should facilitate digital payments. So if a B2C customer comes to you and if he scans that QR code, dynamic QR code, he automatically knows what is the amount of payable and he can pay through Paytm, UPI, Bhim app, etc., etc. Okay. So very, very important. Please note very carefully, there are two types of QR code. I am repeating again for the benefit of all. One is the QR code for the B2B invoices, which would be generated and provided to you by the IRP through e-invoicing. The other is QR code dynamic for B2C invoices, which would be generated by taxpayer itself. Okay. There are various taxpayers who are not liable for e-invoices like SEZ units, insurance or banking companies, GTA, transporters not liable for e-invoicing. Those who are doing transportation of passengers also not liable. Exhibition, cinematographer, films, which means these PVR theaters and all, as it is due to COVID, they are in a very bad shape. So not liable for e-invoicing. Well, I saw one question on the chat box where some queries were asking whether entity logo can be put on e-invoices. Yes, entity logo can be put and you can customize your e-invoices. Basically, what we have done for our clients through our GSP, Go for GST or Go Robo GSP is that we have kept the same invoice pattern, all logo, everything same. We have provided the QR code, we have provided the IRN field and few additional field as per this notification 2060-2020, and we have kept the format the same, right? So there is no change in the format, only 2-3 additional data fields which we have given and which the taxpayer has provided. So this is what an IRN would look like on your screen, right? 64-digit IRN. One taxpayer was asking us whether 2A matching is required or not for IRN to IRN, right? So answer is 2A matching is not required IRN to IRN, right? Mind that there is a myth. Some people say that IRN is your invoice number. It is a misstatement. IRN is not your invoice number. Your own invoice number continues to be your invoice number. IRN is a reference number of the government for the particular invoice number, right? As I said, e-invoice can be rejected also. Now this QR code, if you scan this QR code which is provided by IRP, it would have 8 data sets, right? 8 data of your e-invoice. Your GSTIN, your recipient's GSTIN, invoice number, date of generation, invoice value, number of line items and HSN code of main item. One very important question which all taxpayers ask is whether, say, your invoice date is 31st of August, right, or 31st of January. By when can you generate the invoice? Answer is no time limit is there. Okay. You can generate the e-invoice whenever you like. However, we suggest as a best practice, it should be done within 1 week's time, right? Because it cannot be that you have generated your invoice on 31st of Jan and after 6 months you generate the IRN, right? It would be a dubious kind of a transaction. So within 1 week, as a best practice, you should generate your IRN, but it need not be generated the same day or the next day. That was a criteria initially, but now that criteria has been taken off. If you make a mistake in your IRA e-invoice, can you rectify it partially? Answer is no. You have to cancel the whole e-invoice, and that cancellation facility is available only for 24 hours. Other than if 24 hours are elapsed, then you have to cancel the e-invoice through a credit note. Okay. And then regenerate the e-invoice again. Okay. So this would be how like a QR code would look like. It would be in 3 parts. You see these dots, red dots, which you see. all these three parts would be separated by this. It would be a hashed function, as I told you. However, when you print it on an invoice, it would be like a square kind of what you see on your e-way bills. After decoding QR code, it looks like this. We have all filed income tax returns, right? And you know how an EML file looks, XML file looks like. So it would look like an XML file after it is decoded. So friends, our GSP, as I told you, e-invoice generation is only 5% of e-invoicing. Our GSP gives various other features of data analytics and artificial intelligence, right? What are the, I will just take you through few of the features, right? So one is PAN-wise matching in two-way versus purchase register. Say if your supplier has supplied in your West Bengal GSTIN and he has posted in your Maharashtra GSTIN, your two-way in West Bengal and in Maharashtra would both show a mismatch. Our GSP, it gives you a data analytic report whereby it does a PAN matching, right? Other two-way matching and all these are a lot of reports you would get. You can select, say you want to do the matching only for 3 months. You can select the 3-month period. You can do the matching. You can do show a tolerance level also that, okay, I need to, don't show me mismatches more than 100 rupees. It would not do that. Most important is vendor status. It is very, very important, friends. Most of the GST frauds have happened across the country because some unscrupulous suppliers, what they have done, they have updated their GSTR1, they have given the invoice, updated their GSTR1, and after 2 months they have eloped, right? They have not filed their GSTR3B and not paid their taxes. Therefore, it is very important to see whether the vendor has filed his GSTR3B return or not also. And that can be done by our GSP. So there are so many other data analytics reports, right? E-way bill versus GSTR1 versus GSTR2A matching. Mind that across the country, GST department is doing audits, and this is one report which we have suggested from the last 6 months, and this is being reviewed by the GST department across the country, right? They are asking to match the e-way bill generated not only for your outward supplies but also for your inward supplies. Many a times you see for your inward supplies also you need to generate e-way bill. The supplier does not generate e-way bill, he gives you X works. So the department requires a reconciliation between your GST1, 2A and the e-way bills generated. This can be generated very easily from our GSP. E-way bill versus e-invoice versus sales register report, right? A three-way matching. All of these reports which you see on your screen, there are so many other reports. There are so many other reconciliations. Mind that the department today has got its own software by which the department can have its reports. And therefore, it is very important that we are scrutiny ready with these reports also. Friends, now I would take you through the new return system under GST. You all know a new return system for small taxpayers has been notified by notification 79/2020. It is called QRMP, quarterly return monthly payment, right? So what is this QRMP? Quarterly return monthly payment system is for those taxpayers with an aggregate turnover of more than rupees 5 crore. So if a taxpayer has a turnover of less than 5 crore, not one GSTIN, it is aggregate turnover. So if a taxpayer is registered in 3 states, all the three states combined, including stock transfers, if that is less than 5 crore, it can take the facility of QRMP, right? It can file quarterly GSTR 3B. However, it has to pay taxes monthly. This is what I told in the beginning of the webinar, that now how do you pay monthly? As you all know, the GST system is such whereby GSTR 3B is a tool whereby you can set off the tax liability from your cash ledger. And the department has contended in obscene number of litigations that payment in 3B is a payment in cash ledger, and the balance in cash ledger is not a payment. Friends, as I told you, why this notification, why this QRMP scheme, the CBIC itself has accepted that payment, if you have sufficient balance in your cash ledger and credit ledger, it would be deemed that you have paid the taxes. So this scheme is that if you are a taxpayer with an aggregate turnover of less than 5 crore, then you can file the return monthly, but you have to pay the taxes quarterly. You can file the return quarterly, but you have to pay your taxes monthly. How? Now, every month you have got two options, right? One option is you see the last quarter's tax payment, and in the current quarter, when you are going for this QRMP scheme, for the first month you pay 35% of previous quarter's tax payment. Second month, pay 35% more. Third month, file your 3B and pay off your taxes. Okay? If you have sufficient balance in your credit ledger and cash ledger, it would be deemed that you have paid off the taxes. So for example, I will give you a simple example. Say, in the last quarter, your total tax liability was 100 rupees, right? So in this quarter, when you are going for QRMP scheme, you have to pay 35 rupees in the first month, 35 rupees in the second month. So if your credit ledger and cash ledger in the first month is showing a balance, combined balance of 38 rupees, no need to pay anything extra. If you go to the second month, your credit ledger and cash ledger is showing a balance of say 65 rupees. 30 rupees credit ledger, 35 rupees cash ledger. But how much do you have to pay? 35 in the first month, 35 in the second month. So both months combined 70 rupees. And your credit and cash ledger combined is showing 65. So you pay off rupees 5 in cash through PMT6 challan, and that would suffice. The moment 70 rupees is the balance as per your credit ledger and cash ledger, that is it. You need not set it off. The next month when you file your GSTR 3B, you set it off against the GSTR 3B. Right? However, every month you cannot, these taxpayers who are opting for QRMP scheme, they cannot generate a invoice of more than 50 lakh. I'll tell you what, I'll explain to you in detail. Now, there is another scheme called IFF, Invoice Furnishing Scheme, which is inbuilt in this QRMP scheme. So for these suppliers, this is very important for you, even you as a recipient, mind that. So suppose your supplier takes the benefit of this QRMP scheme. Now, you know this rule 36(4) tells you that you cannot take more than 10% extra credit. So your supplier who has taken the benefit of this QRMP scheme, he has got a facility of IFF, invoice furnishing facility, whereby to the extent of 50 lakh rupees GST liability, he can furnish the invoice every month, right? I am repeating, to the extent of 50 lakh rupees liability of GST, he can furnish the invoice every month. And once he furnishes the invoice in his IFF, invoice furnishing facility, that would automatically reflect in your GSTR 2A. Okay? And you can take the credit. It would be considered in the 110% as per rule 36(4). Okay? So it is very important, if you are the recipient of goods or services from this QRMP scheme, taxpayers, you ask them or you take a declaration from them that, gentlemen, whatever goods or services you are supplying to me, please ensure that you update it in your IFF so that I can take the credit same month. I don't have to wait after 3 months for you to update and I block my working capital. Okay. So this is very, very critical. Friends, now in GSTR 2A, there are other new features also. For example, the date when the counterparty amends his invoice in GSTR 1, that date would be available. The vendor, your supplier, has filed his 3B or not, that is available. Filing status of your supplier, right? Effective, if your supplier's GSTN has been cancelled, effective date is available on your GSTR 2A. So all of these you can automatically get through our GSP of Go for GST, Velocis or Robo, right? Therefore, it is very important to take the benefits of all of this, inbuilt it, so that you as a honest taxpayer are not defrauded by an unscrupulous supplier. Also, very, very important, if you look at your GSTR 2A now, it has the details of the ITC on import and SEZ also. This was a major flaw, right? Now, even your import and SEZ related ITC is available. So your matching you have to do with entire 2A matching. Part A, Part B, Part C, Part D. This SEZ and import related details are in Part D of GSTR 2A. Friends, another important form has been notified, right? There was a confusion that whether 2B has been notified or not. It has been notified in Rule 62. 2B is a static form. And so every month 2B shows that for this month 2A is dynamic, but 2A shows ITC for the month. So it is very important that every month you not only do reconciliation with 2A, but department will see 2B also when they are calculating the ITC taken by you vis-a-vis Rule 36(4) to see whether you have taken 10% extra or more extra. Then they will see GSTR 2B. Okay, you have to be very, very clear about this. One very important thing with this GSTR 2B is that amended invoices. Say your supplier has amended an invoice. Say you are sitting in October 2020. Your supplier has given you an invoice dated April 2020, amended it in October 2020. Now, in your GSTR 2A, it will show it in this amendment in April. However, in your 2B, it will show the amendment in the current month, right? Say he has increased or reduced the tax. So the effect you have to take now. So now with this 2B, actually the work has increased. You have to do a reconciliation not only with 2A, which as per explanation to Rule 70, I am repeating, right? This will 100% come up for litigation. Please note this point very, very categorically. The department will compare the ITC month on month as per Rule 36(4) with 2B. However, as per explanation to 70, you can take the shelter under explanation to Rule 70, whereby till today, for the purpose of matching, GSTR 2A is the notified form. Right? I am giving you a defense from today of a litigation that is bound to happen after 4 to 5 months. Right? Please note very, very categorically, this has been taken up in various conferences. Possibly you will see an amendment in Rule 70 and thereafter also. As of now, they have just amended Rule 62 and said there will be a form GSTR 2B. But I feel that an amendment in Rule 70 is required. Otherwise, taxpayers can take shelter under that amended rule, the explanation to Rule 70, right? To content that if the ITC is available in 2A, then 2A is the form with which you need to reconcile. Okay. So these are the important things which you must note. Even if you are not opting for this QRMP scheme, this QRMP scheme would be applicable to you as a recipient of the goods or services supplied by a small taxpayer under QRMP scheme. Okay. So this PPT would be mailed to you. You can keep looking at it and you can keep reading it at your own pace. Well, you all know that from 1st of December, in case you have not filed your returns for 2 months, e-way bill may be blocked. Again, for the genuine taxpayers, it is not their own problem, but bigger problem is your suppliers. If your supplier's e-way bill is blocked, then you cannot purchase from that supplier also. Mind that. So it is very important now. If you are doing business, it is very important to be GST compliant, because the other part, even if your customers want to do business with you, they would be blocked if you are not compliant. On the contrary, when you are doing business with a supplier, you as a corporate citizen, as an ethical citizen, you have to be very careful of which supplier you are doing business from. Friends, the next topic is how to handle GST audits, right? So I would take you through one very, very critical aspect of GST audit manual, which has been notified by the published by the CBIC in September 2019. You know, we have done a lot of reconciliations in GSTR 99C. Well, this is another reconciliation which you should all either do it or keep it ready, because the GST department, while doing the audit, they would certainly require this reconciliation. This is not what I am saying. This is as per the GST audit manual or GST AM, which has been published by the CBIC. So see, just have a look very briefly as to what reconciliations they want and how far now in this GST audit by the department we need to be ready. So they want a reconciliation between your books of accounts, GSTR 9, cost audit report, income tax return, income tax annual report, that is the income tax audit report, trial balance, annual report or balance sheet. So 6-way reconciliation: books, 99C, cost audit report, tax audit report, trial balance, balance sheet, and income tax return. Already we are getting notices from various commissionerates for matching your GST return with the income tax return. So Even if you are doing only indirect tax in your company or for your clients, please make sure that your data are tallying with the income tax return also. And what we are doing for our clients is we are keeping this format ready, right? Because we know for the department, when it comes for auditing, they would certainly ask for this. They have no choice as it is already prescribed in the GST audit manual. So what are the data fields? GST paid, ITC, export value, ITC taken and utilized, consumption of raw materials, very, very important, right? All of these need to be verified in all of these 6-way matching report. Friends, 2 or 3 very critical points which we need to be ready for while facing departmental audit. First is, if you as a supplier are issuing GST credit note, it is your liability to see that the counterparty, that is the recipient of the credit note, has reversed the input tax credit. Okay. So again, all taxpayers ask me, sir, how do we ensure that? Friends, what we have done with our clients, the large clients, is that we have written to all the taxpayer, all our customers, major at least 80-90%, whose value are 80-90%, we have written to our major customers asking them to confirm whether they have reversed the ITC on our GST credit notes, right? And once they reply, that becomes a persuasive evidence. Friends, in law, there are 2 types of evidences. If you see the Evidence Act and the law, that one is a conclusive evidence that yes, this input tax credit appearing in my 2A, supplier filing is 3B, and I have the invoice. It is a conclusive evidence, nothing more I need. But this confirmation from your customers that they have reversed the input tax credit, that becomes a persuasive evidence. And even if it is found that they have not reversed the ITC, you are guarded by the doctrine of impossible performance. More than this, you cannot do. However, this you must do. Again, rule 36.4 you need to prepare. I have already taken you through this form 2B. Original input tax credit documents, right? Many a times in one very large client of ours, a multinational company, the tax head was under a pressure from their sales department and operations department that we will not take original bills from our suppliers. Friends, if you are not taking hard copy of bills from your suppliers, ensure that the supplier is giving you bills which are signed by DSC. Then you have, that is a ITC taking document. However, just scan copy of the bills. We have faced, in fact, we are facing a litigation in one of the in Andhra Pradesh, whereby one of the commissionerates, he is saying, no, your bills are not signed. I will not accept them as ITC taking documents. So now what we are doing, we are telling all the suppliers that, gentlemen, please sign the bills and send it to us. So please ensure that you have the hard copy of the signed bills, or if you have a digital copy of the bills, they are signed with DSC by the supplier. So friends, just quickly for a few minutes, I will take you through the aspects of litigation, and then I will answer all the queries. Some of them are in the chat box, which I will answer, and thereafter anybody else who has any other query, please keep typing in the chat box and I would answer all of them. Few things on litigation. Friends, across the country, we are facing, genuine taxpayers also are facing inspection, access to business premises, search, and summons. Sometimes the field formations are using summons or inspection provision not in the strict intent of the statute and the board. So we have faced so many summons across the country, in Bangalore, in Mumbai, in Haryana, in West Bengal, Kolkata. Friends, inspection, right, is conducted by the authority of section 67(1). 67(1) states that where an officer not below the rank of a joint commissioner has reason to believe that there is a suppression, evasion, contravention or manipulation to evade tax, then he can authorize a junior officer to conduct an inspection on the site of the taxpayer, right? Very important is this word reason to believe, which has been held by the Supreme Court, that this reason to believe has to be a sufficient reason to believe, and there should be a reason, nexus between the reason to believe and why you are conducting the inspection. In one of our clients, we have seen that inspection is conducted because he has sold certain goods to a person who has been arrested. Well, it is not a reason to believe, right? It is a reason to suspect. And suspicion is not a belief. There is a big difference between suspicion and belief. The department did not even write to the instant taxpayer that you give me your accounts, give me your 3B, tell me what you have supplied to this customer. And suddenly we saw on a day where 2 officers landed with a INS 1 form. Sometimes INS 1 is also faulty, right? So this is not reason to believe. Also, as the CBIC flyer itself, inspection should be a method of the last resort, right? You can take shelter under this. If the taxpayer is not responding to emails, to letters, that becomes a circumstance of the last resort. However, where there is no email, no notice, no nothing, suddenly inspection cannot be invoked. Friends, after this, many a time these summon provisions are also inflicted where a hearing is sufficient. Summon under section 70 of the CGST Act, right? That is a very, very stringent provision, and that is only inflicted in case of a criminal offense. If there is a belief that there is an evasion of tax, only then a summon can be issued. Otherwise, a hearing, a personal hearing, is a form which the field formation should take, right? So all of these grounds, this CBIC circular and section 67 and 70, they should be taken in the right spirit, and whenever we are facing inspection summons, we should be very clear whether there exists such a circumstances. If not, then when we are making our petitions, it is very, very important that we take these grounds in case in future there is a litigation on these aspects. I am certain that the courts would take a lenient view. Already a High Court has held that in case of summons, there cannot be a torture, right? Many a times we have seen in one of the cases, and most of the times there are very few practitioners who are handling inspections, summons, searches and seizures. We have handled even in income tax, in GST also. It is very important that you put in the right legal grounds. It has been held by the Supreme Court and the various courts, even the High Court under GST, that the summons can only be conducted during business hours. That is from maybe 10 o'clock to 6 o'clock. You cannot be kept till 12 o'clock at night. Many a times all these various uh, invasive procedures are not adhered to by the field formations in the right spirit of law, and we as righteous assessees, we should take these grounds while drafting our petitions as a response to these inspections and summons. Right now, as I said, there are various important and beneficial case laws. Now, this instant case law by the Karnataka High Court in the case of PH Mohammad Kunju and Brothers versus Assistant State Sales Tax Officer under GST only. Now, in the instant case, a material was coming back from job work and only the taxable value in the e-way bill was wrong. The High Court, Honorable High Court held that only because taxable value is wrong, it cannot be a ground for penal action or detention, and the writ petition was allowed. Well, friends, there are many such instances in which the moving squads, they detain the vehicles and inflict penalties for these frivolous grounds, and these have been held by the High Court as not grounds for detention. Even in the case of Hariyar Prasad, Patna High Court held in a similar case. Now, retraction of statement during inspection. We are talking about inspection. This is a very important case law. Under income tax, there are various other judgments held by the Supreme Court and the High Court that if an taxpayer accountant during inspection, he says that some book records are not available, and even if he signs a statement during inspection, it cannot be taken by the respondents that the no accounts are kept, right? If the respondent after that he produces his books of accounts, then it has to be taken at face value. Just because a accountant or a particular taxpayer during inspection has said that no books of accounts are maintained, only that cannot be taken as the last word. He is filing his 3B, he is maintaining books, he has produced the books post facto, then the plea cannot be taken by the respondents, right? In the case of TVL JF International, this has been held by the Madras High Court. This is a very, very important judgment on retraction of statement during inspection. Right, again this case, in the case of Sri Shyam Baba Edible Oils, the Madhya Pradesh High Court has ruled that a show cause notice should be issued only and published on the GST portal, right? Well, you cannot take the plea of COVID and not appear before the department. This has been held in the case of PV Rao versus Senior Intelligence Officer by Delhi High Court. Again, a waybill case whereby a sale in transit was done and a new waybill was generated while the vehicle was in transit. The respondent said that this is a post facto thought. The High Court held that no, even if it is sold in transit and a new waybill is made while the vehicle is in transit, it cannot be a ground for detention. Now, the last case is Madras High Court judgment in the case of Messrs. Sundyne Chem, where it was held that even if after the time barring period, the GSTR 1 and 3B is amended, where there is no benefit to the assessee, time barring limitation period will not prevail, right? This is a very important judgment by the Madras High Court. You can go through this at your own pace. So friends, I would now take certain all the questions which are typed in the type box. First question is from Mr. Rajesh Deshpande. Query regarding e-invoice. We have heard that company logo which we are using as on date on our invoice, but it will not reflect in e-invoice while uploading JSON file. Is it true, Mr. Rajesh? You cannot upload the logo to the IRP, but after you get the JSON file back from the IRP, you can print it with your company logo, right? If you take the help of a GSP like our go for GST, GSP or Robo GSP, what we do, we customize the invoice in such a way that once we get the JSON file back from the IRP, then we print it with the company logo for you and you get a logo made e-invoice. How to get the Mr. Ashok Jha, he says how to get the dynamic QR code for B2C supplies. Your banker will help you, sir. Mr. Shekhar Jalan says now we are RCM or turnover 100 crore, then what do we do? Sir, RCM supplies are exempt supplies under GST. If you are providing any taxable goods or service, even 1 rupee, then you are liable to e-invoicing. Mr. Rajesh Deshpande again, he says, what will be the timeline between movement of goods at the time of e-invoice upload and e-way bill? Well, e-invoice, once you upload the e-invoice, your part A gets generated. Only when part B gets generated of the e-way bill, your timeline for movement starts. Before that, the timeline does not start. After e-invoice, can it be cancelled? And if yes, what is the timeline? Within 24 hours, it can be cancelled on IRP and through a credit note after that. What will be the process if e-invoice generated and then after any rectification or modification? Sir, you have to rectify or modify on your in your GSTR1 return itself in table number 9. E-invoice cannot be modified. If there is a mistake in an e-invoice, it has to be cancelled in your GSTR1 and a new invoice has to be generated with a new IRN number. E-invoice will be linked in GSTR1 in future. Yes, of course. E-invoice will be linked with GSTR1. Miss Meera says self-invoices against employees, recovery outward supplies. Is e-invoice required? Miss Meera, self-invoices for RCM e-invoice is not required. But if you are recovering any money from an employee, say for example, you are recovering a notice period pay from an employee, that is a normal forward charge invoice and e-invoice would be applicable on it. Mr. Shekhar Jalan, again we are in RCM right now. Mr. Shekhar, I have answered this. Again, Mr. Rajesh Deshpande says, sir, as your software shows, disallow credit like 17.4, I think 17.5 entries because to be from portal filed by taxpayer is showing allowable in portal like insurance. Canteen is also allowed by 2B portal where we have to reconcile 2B first, then with our books. Yes, you have to see ineligible ITC, you don't have to reconcile with 2B. But eligible only, you have to reconcile with 2B also. Ineligible is ineligible. You can just tag it and update it in GSTR 3B. Okay. Very important point over here is that many a times we are not reflecting or reporting ineligible ITC in GSTR 3B. Well, that is a very, very important thing. We should do it. I will have some water. Just a second. Just 1 minute. Okay. Miss Usha says rule 36.4, should we use 2B or 3A? Miss Usha, you should use 2A as per explanation to rule 70, as I said. However, department would use 2B. So I would say use both 2B and 2A and see that you don't violate any. Mr. Shekhar Jalan again says, okay, we have answered this. Mr. D.V. Sai Kumar says, sir, can we generate e-invoice backdated? Well, e-invoice has to be live, but say you generate an invoice today on 27th of November, but you generate the e-invoice on 30th of November, that is allowed. Your invoice date can be backdated, but e-invoice date will automatically get appear on the e-invoice. Mr. Ashim Saha says, as send customer, can I ask GST e-invoice to my supplier? Yes, of course. If your supplier is liable for e-invoice, then you must, in fact, I have missed this point. In case you must take a declaration from your major suppliers if they are not giving you e-invoice that they are not liable for e-invoicing. Right? It is a very, very important point, Mr. Shah. Mr. Shekhar Jalan, transportation services require GST number. Yes, with transportation, if it is in RCM, then 100% in RCM, no GST registration is required. But if you have any other service or goods which you are rendering, then yes, GST number is required. Mr. Deepak says e-invoice is not generated due to some reason. What to do? Well, sir, you have to keep trying. Please see the error code and act accordingly. I have explained few error codes like IRN, duplication, etc. There is a place of supply mismatch, etc. However, if you are liable for e-invoice, then it is a mandatory requirement and there would be certain penalties if you are liable to generate e-invoice and you do not generate the e-invoices. Mr. Rajesh Deshpande says, sir, this is very informative information from you. How can we get this PPT? Mr. Rajesh and all the participants, you would get the PPT on mail from our office. Shweta can do the needful. You can mail the PPT to all those participants who have joined this session. Okay, so with this, friends, we end this session. Thank you very much for joining, and we look forward for other sessions also. Going forward in December, we are going to have another session, and by and large, every month on the recent updates, notifications, recent provisions under GST and income tax, we would keep on having these sessions. So please do join. Also, you can go to Tax Guru's YouTube channels and our videos and all you can access. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.